An EV made in China. An adventure seeker made in England. A challenge made by Rev.
I really hope that there's a charger out there.
The Nio EL7, a 1,500 kilometer extreme test. Charging infrastructure, swapping stations, Siberian tigers. And temperatures of up to minus 40 degrees. Can this Brit take an e-car through an extreme winter test in the iciest of terrains and live to tell the tale?
I have a tough question. If your mobile phone runs out of battery in just a few minutes when it's minus 20, what will one of China's best new energy vehicles do when it's minus 40? Well, today we're going to find out. My name is Elliot. Behind me is the Nio ES7 or EL7 in Europe, and we're taking a trip to one of China's most northern points, where we're going to search for the elusive Northern Lights, one of my childhood dreams. We must be mad. Welcome to Rev.
Our journey begins at the Harbin Ice and Snow Festival, the largest such event in the world. Every year, artists from near and far come and build some of the world's biggest ice sculptures, creating a spectacle that attracts up to 18 million visitors in spite of the bone-chilling temperatures and winds.
Now I know what you're thinking. Why am I taking the Nio EL7 into such a cold and challenging environment? Well, there's a very good reason for that. Even if you don't live in China, you will have heard about Nio. They're expanding rapidly in Europe this year, to Scandinavia, to Germany and to the Netherlands. And this has a lot of expectations to live up to, a lot of varied and challenging conditions that the car has to perform in. We don't all live in sunny beach towns, but we are all eventually moving to new energy vehicles. So with that, let's introduce the route.
We're starting in Harbin in the northeast corner of China. West of us is Mongolia, in the east is North Korea, and 1,500 kilometers up north is our destination, Mohe, a beloved tourist spot in China in spite of the Arctic conditions. Because this is one of the few places where you can sometimes see the Northern Lights, and I've always wanted to experience that in person.
This is the Harbin Siberian Tiger Park and it's feeding time. Now it's important to remember that these Siberian tigers in front of me right here, which are massive, are native to the area that we're going in the north of China, as are brown bears. So this is not a place you want to run out of electric juice in our Nio EL7. However, Nio has us covered in two ways. The first is with Nio Power, where a little van will come along if we get stuck and give us a little bit of a charge. The second is the EL7's camping mode. So if we do get stuck somewhere for the evening, we can lock the doors and maintain the cabin temperature on the inside. Now hopefully we don't have to use any of those and we won't be seeing these tigers in real life again.
There's just one giant obstacle, the 1,500 kilometer road from here to there, and I already told you how scarily cold it gets up here, which we're led to believe batteries hate. But it's also filled with steep mountain passes, which batteries also don't love, and only a few charging points, which means the Nio EL7 really has to live up to its range promises of over 500 kilometers on a single charge, if we're meant to get there. China used to have serious pollution problems. One answer was to make EVs hugely attractive through tax and other incentives. Today, they are everywhere in cities like Shanghai, Beijing or Harbin. Life in a Chinese city with an EV is easy. Chargers are everywhere, and in fact, China boasts around 2 million chargers. In comparison, all of Europe only around 300,000. Plus EVs rarely need maintenance and performance is excellent. I'm here at a local restaurant in Harbin and I'm about to have lunch with a couple of Nio owners. In fact, one of them owns this very restaurant. And I'm curious to find out, what do they think about me driving into the frozen north of China?
My main concern for you is charging. I'm a little bit anxious because I don't know how many kilometers you can drive between charging in the cold. But I feel confident the service technicians can help you if there's a problem. Whenever I have any problem related to the car, I call their after-sales service. They care even more than I do, which gives me a warm feeling.
But now, as much as I like Harbin, it's time to get back into the warm Nio and onto the road to Mohe. There's just one more thing I need to do. As you can see behind me, we're at a Nio battery swapping station. This ET7 behind me is getting its battery changed in just 3 minutes. We're actually next, but this will be our last battery swap before driving 1,500 kilometers north. So we've got the Arctic route up north, and that's going to have all of our battery charges all the way up, but this is actually the last power stop. This ET7 is almost finished. We're next in line, so we better get going. This one, 这个。
然后点右边那个。
好的，这个。
对。
Order placed. Power swap now.
哎，好，
People
下上了。
waiting ahead. I pay attention to the queue number.
然后稍等，然后轮到您，咱们就可以。
好的，好的，好的，好。Good. There is a lot of hope for graphite batteries to radically reduce charging times in the near future. But they're not in mass production just yet, and so this is currently the quickest way to get back onto the road. I just wish these stations were already available where we're going. Because while many places now have fast superchargers that can get NEVs relatively quickly back onto the road, only these battery swap stations are currently as quick as filling up your gas tank. China is a vast country, and the differences between urban and rural areas can be stark. These futuristic battery swap stations make city life with EVs easy, and I can only hope they will come to more and more areas. But from here on out, I'm really leaving the big cities behind. Ahead of me are 1,500 kilometers of mountains, cold, and if I'm really lucky, amazing northern lights. It has to be said though that the road ahead to Mohe is also a real test for this new technology that we hope will carry us into the next century. While gas stations are everywhere, range anxiety in an EV is still a thing, and as the frozen mountains of Heilongjiang come into view ahead, our battery range drops by up to 50%. In the coming days, this will force us to carefully plan the route ahead, because with the limited number of available chargers, we now can't afford to miss a single one.
I really hope that there's a charger out there.
I'm on my way to the very northern end of China to find out how the Nio EL7, a battery-operated car, fares in the extreme cold temperatures. And hopefully, to also see the elusive northern lights.
You join me on a very cold -25 day. Now, I need to fill the car with some electrons and I need to fill my belly with some nutrients, so better get going.
There is something I have to tell you about Northerners. Even on the coldest days, many don't wear gloves. You could get the impression they're just tough because life here definitely is not easy, but you'd be missing so much. Even in the most remote corners here, we are constantly being approached by friendly and curious people. Many want to chat, to show us around, to introduce their amazing, hearty foods and tell us about their lives. I've lived in China for a long time, but I never expected such a cold place like the far north to greet me with this much warmth.
Dongbei style, just use your fingers, stick it in the lettuce and roll it up. It's not a very good roll. Put some sauce on it. Home cooked food is the best. It's so flavourful, the meat, sauce, just the best. Now I suppose it's time we talked about the Nio EL7, which has been our trusty steed for the past few days. And here we are with Chinese heritage against Chinese future. And look at this fantastic colour. This bright orange really stands out against the snow here. Now we've been driving quite challenging conditions, as you can see. And all of the technology which is packed inside has been really useful. So it's got automatic high beams, which dip when it sees oncoming cars. It's got the cameras, the LiDAR, which helps us to relax a bit more in the cabin. And it's not just that, but our car has the 100 kilowatt-hour battery, which is giving us more than enough range to get through these mountainous passes and hilly roads in this area. One more thing, we've got snow tyres, really useful, as you can see.
1.4 billion people call China home. But even though Heilongjiang is one of its larger provinces, just 32 million people live here. You can sometimes drive for hours without spotting another soul. Until suddenly a train appears in the night, on the way to where you are going, to Mohe. Range. That is the thought on my mind. Even after nearly 5 days on this trip, through cities, mountains and over bumpy roads, I find the seat still comfortable and the ride just right. I expected to be exhausted. Instead, my mind imagined snowdrifts blocking a road or hungry tigers finding me late at night. 10 years ago, Nio and its electric vehicles didn't even exist. Just now, Nio announced they are building 1,000 more chargers in rural China. I think 10 years from now, range won't be on my mind.
When you think about the logistics of this trip, it really is remarkable. As you can see behind me, the locals put their cars in these car sleeping bags to protect them from the cold weather. We can't really do that with the chargers or the battery, and sometimes they get frozen. As an example, this bottle was left in our car last night when it was minus 32, and it's completely frozen solid and expanded the plastic. Most of the locals we've spoken to have also said this trip is simply not possible, but so far we've managed to prove them wrong.
Shi Wei Yu is one of the people building the charging network up here in the remote north of China. I asked him about the difficulties working in such cold temperatures.
You are very much correct. It's very difficult. We faced serious challenges in the north because, as you know, during winter, temperatures here drop far below zero, and we are working all the way up into the tundra. Sometimes the ground here will become very hard, and even the equipment used for construction becomes very hard to use. It can be very difficult to lay the groundwork, and even once the equipment is in place, our operators need to work in very harsh outdoor environments to ensure smooth operations. You know, on January 20th this year, the area around Mohe dropped to minus 50 degrees Celsius. That's the lowest measured temperature since 1969.
And then, after driving through yet another night, we arrive as the morning sun reveals the stunning beauty of one of China's largest nature reserves along the border to Russia. There are many things we need to do to preserve the world we love. One is the decarbonisation of our cars. Of course, minerals still need to be mined, and extracting rare earths does bring its own problems. But already 99% of these batteries can be recycled and used in another EV when this one expires. Unfortunately, my childhood dream of seeing the Northern Lights remains unfulfilled. Nonetheless, I drove over 1,500 kilometers in the freezing cold, charged 8 times, used one battery swapping station right at the start, and I travelled into the unknown and got past many a fear along the way. Without carbon spilling out of our exhaust, completely silent, leaving little more than tyre marks.
We made it here to Mohe in northern China, where it's a very chilly -35 degrees right now. What surprised me is not how the Nio, the electric car, has got us here, but how it's done it in comfort, refinement, with warmth. And it shows that Nio is ready to conquer the world with the EL7 and their other models. The EV, the electric car, is ready for any situation. I've got to head back to Shanghai now. My name is Elliot Richards, and see you next time.
And here's to conquering the world again on the next episode of Rev.